went to the hairdresser yesterday and I cut bangs. So these are my new bangs. I think I like them. I'm not totally sure, but I also think I'll have to work on, you know, styling them a little bit and stuff like that. But if you recall, when I cut my own bangs circa 2021, I decided to do it professionally this time. And they turned out nice as, you know, bangs can be. I felt like I wanted a little change, but not like a huge change. So I just asked them to like cut off the dead weight of my hair, which turned out to be like 2 inches. So like this much ish came off my hair. So I mean, it's not short, but to me it feels really short. So yeah, so that, and then obviously the bangs too. I wanted to share my bangs while they were still fresh from the press. But today I quote-unquote styled them with like these, what are these called in English? I have no idea, but I just rolled these up onto my head, and I feel like it worked pretty well in terms of getting them to be more bouncy and stuff. I'm gonna voice over my little training session. I'm just gonna pull it up here on my iPad and kind of just like watch the video as we go, and describe to you guys how I'm thinking when I'm executing certain exercises, or why I picked certain exercises or things like that. So this is a training program that I have ran now for, I want to say, how long have I ran this? Probably since June, and it's now September, so it's been quite a while. Disclaimer is that I have been battling kind of a hip issue. It's not an injury per se, it's just like a strain. If I squat with my knees pointing outwards, for example, my hip like insert, where my like adductor inserts into my hip, really hurts. So I think it's from stretching, because I do stretch a lot, and unfortunately it kind of led to something not so great. So I have been modifying a few movements and pathways, but I'll kind of talk you guys through that as we go. So anyway, I've been running this program since June. Always create my own programs, and then I send them over to my coach, and he gives me notes on exercises, or he's like, hey, you should also add this and this and this. So in general, I would say it's a collaborative approach to my training program, and I'm really happy with my current split, because I definitely need more glutes. Definitely. My legs are quite big. Even if I don't train, they are quite large. I don't know if it's bone structure or genetics, whatever. So my legs are pretty big. So I need to kind of make my glutes disproportionately larger than my legs. So that's why I've kind of focused my entire training week around mostly glutes with a side of legs, if you will. So I have 3 leg days. One is a glute day, one is a quad with glute, and one is a hamstring with glute. So that's kind of how I'm doing it. And then I also have one upper body day where I kind of go through my entire upper body. Got a little refill of my supplement stack, and as you can see, I'm big into raw nutrition lately. But that's mainly because I really like having a whey isolate. It's a little dirty, I'm not really sure why, but I really like having whey isolate because it's way better on my digestion. So I got just some basic vanilla, and then I also got a vegan protein of theirs to try, this cookies and cream flavor, which I actually haven't tried yet, so I'll keep you posted on that. but I really like the vanilla one. And then with my order, I happened to get more of these raw bars for free. And I really like having these as like a work locker snack and like gym bag backup snack. It's not like the best protein. It's just like 13 grams of protein per bar, but it's got like 34 carbs or something, which is pretty good for like a post-workout recovery thing. So got that. And then for pre-workout, if you have been here before, you know that I use the non-stim pump lately for all of my lifts, but I did order this raw pre-workout and the flavor is sour as fuck. I haven't tried it yet. I'll keep you posted. I think I'll actually use it for today's leg day. It has a very low content of caffeine. It's only got 50 grams of caffeine per scoop, so I can do like 2 scoops and I'll have 100 grams, which is pretty nice because I'm trying to like not be super dependent on caffeine for my lifts. So I am excited to try this. So first up, we have my leg day number 1, which is quads with a side of glute or vice versa. My first exercise here will be leg extensions, where I hit around 10 to 12 reps, focus on just truly extending at the end range and going all the way down. And then at my last set, I also do a drop set to kind of really finish off strong. After this, I do kind of a glute activation version of hip thrusts. So I prefer to do this particular variant in a hip thrust machine. So what I do is I keep the weight relatively low, and then I do a half thrust. So as you can see, I don't go all the way down. I just focus really hard on having a glute contact the entire way up and down. And when I don't go all the way down, it's a very nice isolation of glutes. So this is usually my first or second movement of each of these quad glute days, just to really get that glute activation going. Next up is one of my new favorites. This angle is a little awkward because of that weird seam, like in the shorts. It looks strange from the back. This is my belt squat movement, which is honestly turning out to be one of my favorite movements for glutes. So I really like this machine and just this move in general. So what I'm doing here is a glute biased belt squat, both for, you know, the sake of my glutes, but also for the hip pattern, for my working around my hip injury that I was describing earlier. So this is a really nice variation of belt squat where I kind of sit back instead of squat straight down. So if you look at my shin angle, it's not really altering in terms of angle towards the floor. Instead, I'm just kind of sitting back in my glutes. So this has really helped me both with glute growth, but also working around that injury. So I am working up to heavier sets here. So I think this is one of my top sets. It's a very squeaky machine, which I didn't realize at the time because I'm wearing noise canceling headphones. But yes, so this is a different angle. So you can see it's very much a sitting back motion. And then I try to not extend my hip all the way at the top, just to kind of keep that constant tension on glutes. up is squats. So normally and typically I do these as a freestanding barbell squat sort of situation, but just due to my hips I have steered more towards a Smith squat, because if I'm in the Smith machine I feel like I can control the bar path way easier and also my hip path. So instead of squatting down like I traditionally would, I am kind of standing a bit more narrow and really just focusing on not what's it called, just angering my hip, if you will. So unfortunately I can't go too heavy on squats due to that, but still a really nice way to kind of isolate glutes more if you're in the Smith machine. So I can't really complain. Next up is the leg press, and you'll note that I put my feet kind of in an awkward position in between the angle, and I've played around with this foot placement on this type of leg press a lot the past months, and I find that this type of leg or foot placement really targets kind of my glute tie-in area, so like where my glutes meet my hamstrings, but it's still incredibly glute biased. So I am a huge fan of this foot placement, and I focus on a controlled movement, going down before my butt lifts off the pad, so protecting my back in that way, and just constant tension. And something you'll also notice is I don't go into complete failure. I go into what I would call maybe a mechanical failure. So like when I'm no longer able to perform a rep where I can still keep tension on the muscle that I am working on, that is where I draw the line in terms of weight that I put on the machine or barbell or whatever it may be. So I rarely go to like absolute failure where like you actually fail a rep. And then after this, it's just a bunch of calf work, pretty uninteresting. So day 2 is glutes and hamstrings. Unfortunately, the gym was very crowded on both of the days that I did this, because these clips are like in 2 weeks time, because the gym is sometimes very crowded and it's very hard to record, as you can see there on the leg curl. But I start with a leg curl and then I go into this movement, which is kind of like a donkey kick on a Smith machine. It's a semi-awkward setup, but as you can see, I'm laying flat on a bench and I've just unlocked the Smith machine and put the safeties up higher so that I can just lay down alone. Since I don't have someone to like unhook it for me, I can just kind of work around it that way. So this is a really nice movement for glutes as well. I feel like it's a great alternative to a kickback. This is another angle of it, as you can see. And you'll also notice that I actually filmed this session in 2 separate sessions. So I completed this session, but I wasn't able to film everything, and then I just, as you can see, a different outfit. This was the following session, and I just decided to complete all of the recordings this session. So after this, I move into a heavy reverse hack squat with a glute focus. So as you can see, my legs are quite straight as I go down, and I don't go down too far because I want to keep that constant tension on my glutes. So, and I also, as you can see at the top, I don't fully extend my hips either, just to keep that tension constant. And this is a really, really, really good glute movement for me. You can't really see my feet, but they are kind of hip width apart and just a tiny bit of an angle outwards on my feet. And the thing that I'm standing on, like the leveler or whatever, is at a slight angle. So it's at maybe 45 degrees or something. So that also helps with the targeting of glutes. I actually don't like to wear belts on this because I feel like it's incredibly uncomfortable and it kind of hinders my glute connection for some reason. So I just go heavy, but still I don't really wear a belt for this. Next up, we are moving into these. This is actually a new movement for me that me and my coach talked about just before this session. And after I sent these clips to him, he actually said that we should switch it from an RDL to a normal sumo deadlift. So as you can see, this is kind of a sumo RDL. But I'll show you another clip here that I took yesterday, actually, when I did the movement we agreed upon me doing. So it'll be a sumo deadlift elevated using bands. So very, very, very constant tension on the glutes here, and going all the way down and all the way up, controlling the bar the entire way. Obviously, as you get closer to the top, it gets heavier because of the bands that I've put under the weight plates. So this is a new movement for me, but I'm really excited about it because it does provide a really nice glute bias. Next up is RDLs, and normally I would want to kind of do these where I lift the weight off of a rack, but there were no racks available. But ideally, I start at the top. I feel like the glute activation is better if you start from the top and like start the movement from the top with the weight in your hands versus lifting it off the floor like I had to do here. But sometimes you gotta roll with the punches. So yeah, this is RDLs. I tried to go heavier, which is why I'm wearing a belt, and I'm also using straps because my grip is very weak. And then we're going into adductors. I did not record this because there was just no real space, but as you can see, an awkward attempt at recording the adductors and an equally awkward attempt at recording my calves just to finish off the session. And then a really terrible video of me finishing off with frog pumps. Just lay on the floor and do frog pumps, weighted or non-weighted. Usually I do them weighted with a kettlebell or a dumbbell. We're moving into day 3, upper body. This I either do on Thursdays or on Saturdays, depending on kind of what my work week and weekend it looks like. But I did not record all of the exercises, but essentially it will be a 360 sort of upper body day. So I'll do shoulders, I'll do front shoulders, I'll do rear delts, and I'll do chest in some capacity, and I'll do back, of course. And then after all of those, I'll usually finish off with abs. For abs, I just do hanging leg raises, and obviously I still do vacuums every morning, but that is not included here. But yeah, this is a nice superset that I always start with. It is lateral delts superset with front delts in a machine. Then from there I go into pressing movements. So this here is obviously a incline bench, and then after this movement I usually go into a military press, either with dumbbells or with a barbell. And then I also do lateral raises with dumbbells as well before I move on to back. For back, I want to do 1 or 2 lat pull down movements. So this here is a single arm lat pull down, and then after that I also move into a normal lat pull down, like with a bar that you pull on. After that I do rows, typically in a cable, like a cable row. And for those I also always stick to around 10 to 12 sets, and then I do 3 sets of abs hanging leg raises, 15 to 20 reps for those. Moving into day number 4, and this leg day is glutes only. So I will start with a single leg hip thrust using the Rogue hip thrust pad that I really like. So just make sure that I put the hard side up against the barbell, and it's just a really nice way to avoid bruising. So I just kind of set up, make sure I'm all good, and then I put one of my legs forward and just kind of rest it passively, but still maintaining balance, and I try to just focus on one glute at a time. So this is called a B stance hip thrust, and it really feels amazing in glutes. And as you can tell, I do not go all the way down to the floor, but I keep that constant tension on my glute, the one that is working. And then after, I think I do like 12 reps here. After the 12 reps are completed, I switch to the other leg and I do the same thing there. So I'm gonna speed this up a little bit, but you get the idea. Then we move into normal hip thrusts. So I'm just doing a few sets of warm-ups here. As you can tell, I am still not going all the way down, as my pad, or like back pad, back support, whatever, I'm using one of those decline ab benches. It's a really nice angle for hip thrusts, so that's a hot tip. So I usually try to go semi-heavy on these for the barbell hip thrusts, while still being able to fully control the bar and fully control the movement, and making sure that I'm always working my glutes and not recruiting too much of back or hamstrings or quad into this. I move into single leg RDLs. I typically like to have something to hold on to with my free hand when I do these, just for balance and making sure that I'm able to just freely kind of focus on the glute that I'm working. So again, this is a like single glute side movement. And as you can see here, I don't go all the way down, I don't go all the way up. I keep it kind of in the middle there to keep constant tension on glutes. Again, I feel like I say that a lot, but it's true. And then obviously I switch over to the other side. I actually also use straps for these because, as I said, my grip is just very pathetically weak. So I use straps for a lot of leg exercises. After this, I move into one of my favorite supersets. So this will be a dumbbell squat, like sumo squat superset with dumbbell RDLs. And the tempo is relatively high, and I do 15 reps of both movements, and then I rest a little bit and then I do it again. So as you can see, quite fast tempo, and I feel like these work pretty well even though I have that hip issue. I'm not entirely sure why, but I can't complain. So I use a heavy dumbbell, and again you can see that I'm using straps as well. For the RDLs, the straps are used mostly for grip purposes because at this point I'm incredibly sweaty, so the dumbbells kind of just slip around in my hand, so I just wrap them around real quick and then I perform a kind of like a pump set. And then I move into one of my hate-love exercises, mostly hate, honestly. I don't like these at all, but they're very great for glutes. So these are Bulgarian split squats, and as you can see, I'm kind of moving in a like diagonal line, and I'm trying to not move that shin angle too much off of the floor, just to kind of really target the glute. I think 10 to 12 reps for these with a dumbbell in each hand. And I keep it fairly light because I only recently learned how to properly target and connect with my glutes in this movement. So if I go too heavy, I tend to start recruiting my quads instead, which is not the point of this exercise. So I have been very, very slowly increasing the weight that I'm able to do on these. After this, we go into kickbacks. Here I do a cable kickback superset with a side kickback or side kick. I do 15 reps of each, I believe. And obviously much lighter weight on the side kicks because they are very, very hard. And then obviously a very, very dark shot of me doing calves again, because I do calves after each session because calves matter. So that is my current training regime. Obviously, as I mentioned, the goal is to grow glutes, and this is how I am attempting to grow glutes. So weights increase every week. I try to, at least, especially for those bigger movements such as the RDLs and the squat variations and the leg press and all of that, just to kind of push the growth, make sure that there is constant change, even though the movements don't change. Either the intensity will change, or the mind to muscle connection will be better, or the weight will be higher, whatever it may be. I just try to make sure that I'm improving in some aspect every week. So hopefully we can see a new and improved package on stage next year. Let me know if you have any questions. I know the footage was like really bad. I don't have anyone to help me record, so it gets hard and it's a little cramped in there, and obviously it's got great lighting, but it's hard to record in because it's pretty dark. So maybe one day I will actually have like someone to help me record, maybe in a brighter space or something. But until then, this is what we got.